from the get-go, you guys were asking, how am I doing and how can you help me? Not how can I help you or what can I bring to the table, but how can you guys help me? And I was like, man, this is the right company. This is the right, program for me to transition out.
Welcome back to another episode of the Boots to Suits podcast. I'm Ruben Hernandez, as usual, accompanied by Doc, James Pitts, Herbert Garcia, and we have a special guest. We call him our consummate gunner, Luis. Welcome to the studio. How are you?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me here. Appreciate it.
Awesome. It's a pleasure to have you. And so this is a podcast where we typically talk about things, say things that other people are thinking, but sometimes might be a little uncomfortable. So hopefully you're okay with that. But the benefit is obviously to assist other either transitioning military personnel, reservists, veterans, sometimes spouses of the military. So we really want to put out a value proposition that's helping a lot of the brothers and sisters that served by sharing sometimes intimate details, some things that are a little bit uncomfortable. The ultimate goal is obviously is to eradicate suicide rates. That's something that is just super close to home for all of us, and also to just provide assistance to those that really need it, whether it's to do VA benefits or whether it's to transition and do workforce development. So whatever value we can provide to the brothers and sisters that serve, that's why we're here today. So thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So just a quick intro on who you are, your rank, where you served, and things of that sort. A little bit of background in terms of your military service.
Okay. I'm a retired Marine.
Hoorah!
Chief 1 Officer 3. Prior infantry, machine gunner. I did it for 15 years. Then I transitioned from an enlisted gunny to a postal chief 1 officer.
Right on. Hoorah!
Totally different mindset. But it helped me. It humbled me a lot. Doing that transition from infantry to postal, different side of the house, different perspective, different view. It's been a great career. 23 years that I served. Gladfully, with the Marine Corps, and of course, America all the way, man.
Hoorah! Yeah, so you're now technically a civilian, I guess. Technically, right? But anybody knows that served. Once you're a Marine, you're always a Marine. So, and I feel like as I get older, that code and that ethos just gets stronger and stronger, man. I literally try to transition and go through what I call the earring phase. I try to even distance myself. I'll be honest. I just wanted to normalize, stabilize. I wanted to eat real food and things like that. I was tired of not sleeping in my own rack and things like that. And so I figured when I got out and I EAS'd, it would be like, all right, I'm going to go civilian. And I'm going to be like that dude on the dude that grows that long hair. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't transition, man. So overall, how has that transition happened for you? How has that been? I know it's been relatively new, so you're still, very recent, but just, in general, how's that going for you?
It's going better. On Friday, I got my DD-214.
Okay.
So that was 3 days ago. Is a lot transitioning out of the military, a lot, and I am so thankful and grateful that I did Boots to Suits, just because of what they provided, the help, not just to become a better individual to get a different job, but to help me in the transition, because I thought I was prepared, but it's a lot that goes with it. You see the checklist of numerous things you need to hit: housing, money, BA, clothing, family, different jobs. So it's so many things that goes with it, and it was stressful.
We'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsor of the show, MG3 Media. MG3 Media specializes in real estate media and marketing. If you are looking for an experienced team to capture incredible photos, videos, and virtual tours for your listings, MG3 Media is the team for you. Their photos have been featured in multiple magazines, and they have been trusted to create stunning videos for multi-million-dollar listings all across Southern California. Right now, MG3 Media is offering listeners of the Boots to Suits podcast 25% off their first photo shoot. Just go to mg3-media.com and click schedule now. Use promo code BOOTS2SUITS. That's Boots, the number 2 Suits, and get 25% off your next listing photos.
It's interesting you say that too, because, a lot of that, what you're talking about right now is sort of a physical transition, but it's that mental transition as well. It's when the dust settles, right? The reality of things really start to integrate. It starts to resonate. And I remember in my case, and I said this in the past, and I don't want to keep dwelling on it, but I know I lived in my truck, for a while just because I distanced myself emotionally, right? I was angry. I'm not gonna lie. I came back to a civilian world that in my mind in many regards was unsat. In my mind, trying to assimilate from what I felt was the gold standard, and that's being totally squared away in all areas of life, physically, mentally, and everything, to go into a civilian world that not only didn't embrace us necessarily at that time, a lot of them did compared to the Vietnam era. My dad
Yep.
did a couple tours in Vietnam, so we were much better than that era. But it was really that mental disconnect that I had to come in and get my head out of my ass and say, you know what, stop making excuses. So it was this mental transition. How's that been for you?
So for me, that one, actually, what helped me a lot was transitioning from the infantry or the ground side to postal.
Hmm.
So I was lucky enough, or cursed, going from infantry for 15 years to a personnel other than grunt, also known as pogues. Nothing
Yeah.
bad with that, we love our pogues. They support the infantry all the way. But that mindset, that 15-year mark, it was hard. It
Hmm.
was hard. And if I would have got out as a ground combat element, you know, it would have been extremely tough. I'm
Hmm.
glad I did it 8 years ago before I actually got out of the military, because as a postal guy, I've been able to go work with the USPS, work with other industries, civilian industries, and my mindset has been changing since then. So I'm thankful for
I
that.
love that.
Yeah, I'm thankful
Yeah.
for that. Recently, you know, this year in February, I did lost my brother, due to suicide. It was tough. It was tough, and now getting out of the military, I'm glad that I have the support. And one of the big supporters that I have is not just my friends, but it's organizations like this.
Yeah.
That we have instructors like Doc, artillery guy over here, ground side, fucking go getter that understands, what that means.
Sure.
What that means in regards to shit. This guy had his brother commit suicide. I understand that because I've been there. Their friends have committed suicide as well. So the understanding and the compassion that they have, for somebody like me getting out, it's been, it's been great, man. It's been
Yeah, I
awesome.
appreciate you sharing that, and condolences on your brother as well. I know that's tough. So I appreciate you putting that out there because, as I mentioned, there's a lot of viewers and listeners that would be like, "Wow, man, these guys have been there." And so for the fellow Marines and veterans that watch and listen to this show, to your point, that are literally transitioning from combat theaters of operation at whatever era you served into a civilian world, I think that your point's well taken. Is that segue, right? If you don't have time to decompress, if you don't have time to put shit in perspective, and you're just going straight from combat theaters of operation to civilian life, back on the block, if you will, it hits a lot of guys really really hard. So the fact that you were able to become you said postal or become a poke. It's funny you said that. I haven't heard that in a while, but the fact that you were able to do that, you're saying really helped you out in terms of being able to kind of put things in perspective, have more of a stable, office environment, if you will,
Yeah.
and before you finally PCS and not PCS, EAS and transferred out, you're saying helped you significantly.
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
That's pretty cool, man. And so, yeah, so Doc, if you want to interject, oh, and again, as I mentioned, condolences on your brother, of course. Obviously, thank you for your service. We're brothers for life. And I really appreciate you being candid with sharing that with our viewers and listeners. So thank you.
I think you said something that was really key was that the Boosted Suits program helped you with your transition. Because if you go back to our first podcast when we were talking about the Boosted Suits program and what one of our goals were, what to separate us from the industry was to make sure we were taking care of the service members while they were transitioning. Because what civilian company is going to do that? You're going to show up there, you're going to do your work, and if you don't, they're not going to hire you. That's all they care about, right? You're a dollar sign and a body. So when we stood this program up, one of our biggest concerns was to ensure that we're taking care of the veteran through their entire transition. What things during the Boosted Suits program helped you?
Oh man, well, so many. It started with the interview. Having an interview with you guys. I didn't know what to expect. This is an industry. You get a job. Okay, they may want to know, my capabilities, my strengths, my weaknesses, and it wasn't that. From the interview, from the get go, you guys were asking, how am I doing? and how can you help me? Not how can I help you or what can I bring to the table, but how can you guys help me? That was just a shocker, and I was like, man, this is the right company. This is the right, program for me to transition out. As it's been tough. And you hit it that right in the money. When you go get different, go with some other company, you do 8 hours or 9 hours, 4 hours, take a 1 hour break, and then, another full hour of doing whatever job that is. Here, not only was that interview, but throughout the whole process, it was more of like a flexibility, understanding that, hey, I know you have BA appointments. Why? Because you had BA appointments. You guys know how important it was, so you made it more important than it was important to me. Like, oh, I got my BA appointments, and you were like, no, man, that
I
is
remember that.
really important.
You were trying
And
to reschedule that. You do not reschedule one of those appointments.
Nope.
and that made it seem like, man, you seem to care more about my transition than myself, and it made it a lot easier. Flexibility with the time schedule as well. We don't have to work from here to here. We can also shift forward, shift back in order to meet whatever transition process I was in. So you didn't just teach me or educate me about the real estate industry, but you taught me about how to be, my BA appointments, my retirement process, better father, better husband, just what Marines do, what service members do, because we have a doc, doc, you always be, loved by the grunt.
Hell yeah.
So, we love that. I see, but say Marines, know
Hoorah.
that you are included in this family, and you guys did that. You made it feel like a family, and helped me, throughout the whole course, not just on how to become an agent, but also, on my transition. And I had nobody else in my corner because I came from Japan. So I had no unit here in the United States. I had no unit. You were my unit. And you made me feel like that.
I appreciate
appreciate
that.
it.
No, we appreciate that.
I remember you being in class, and Ben, who was another student who's a chief corpsman as well. I remember he was going through your book, saying this is what you need to get diagnosed for. This is what you need to put on your thing. So it was just more than real estate. Is my point that I'm getting to, right? Like it wasn't just us in there slamming real estate. We were trying to make sure you guys were all taken care of. We know about all the appointments, how important they are because we've been through them, right? And we know how important it is to actually get paid on time and not get it delayed. So that was one of our biggest goals, and it's in our first podcast and I think it was cool that you hit that on the head.
Yeah.
So then, that from day one, we've talked about, how we want to structure the program and how we want to structure, the assistance provided, because there's a limited amount of time.
Yes.
But from day one, I remember we were talking, and it was always about making sure that we don't put the program first. We put, our brothers and sisters serve first. And so that's the commitment we had from day one. I think Herbert hit it on the head. And they both, actually, Doc and Herbert both did. And there was like, all right, what about this? Well, now we want to make sure that our transitioning military, they have the best this and they have the best that. So it was always about maintaining that gold standard that I alluded to a minute ago, but it was always about making sure that the cohort was taken care of first. And I think that's where the integrity part of it comes in.
So my question for you is, right, so now that you kind of explained at the 15-year mark transitioning from being infantry gunnery sergeant going to postal was that first step in becoming kind of a civilian mindset, right?
Yes.
So now that you went through this program and you had that time to work as a real estate agent where you're starting to manage your own time and build your new path and your new career, what are some hurdles that you realize that you were coming across now that you're on your own versus being in the military where somebody's telling you what to do all the time?
But just, being no longer do I have a schedule. People telling me what to do or what to hit. Now it's on my own. Realizing that it's on your own. And even my wife tells me, when I had to do something, I had Marines. Oh, these 2 Marines can do this for me, or these 3 Marines, or this agency will take care of this. Now it's not that. Now it's me doing those things. And sometimes as you move up in the Marine Corps and you pick up rank, you rely on these people, and you're grateful. You say it. Because the time you forget the hard work that they do. Now I have to, make my own schedule, make my own appointments, create my own binder, and going back to like, oh man, this is just me. Me, I need to be proactive. I actually need to do the work. Versus just supervise. So that was one
So
of
it's a
the
different. Is it a different type of discipline?
yes, 100%. I think it's a different type of discipline. I think we have it because as Marines, we do have that discipline of we're gonna make it happen, we're gonna make it work. But I was like maybe expecting more help. I tell my wife like, hey, can you I need some help on this? I'm like, that's your stuff. You need to do it now. Well, normally I have people to do it for me.
Right.
You can't delegate no more.
Yeah, now you're back in the trenches.
You're back in the trenches. So it was an eye opener. For example, trying to do, during the course we had to do homework. And I had to go back and I'm like, oh man, I need to actually study, think about different things I had to accomplish. But you guys were also so had grace in the sense that not all of us finished the work completely, but you understood that we were not just there for that. We're still transitioning. We still had other things to do. As a service member, as a Marine, it did hurt not doing it because you want to do things 100%, but you also know you have to do X, Y, and Z as you transition out of the military. So I really appreciate that grace, you guys gave us. And I'll be like, oh, now we're staying longer, but you guys did, helped us out. Appreciate it.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. So related to that, then how do you envision applying your leadership skills, things that you learned and applied in the Marine Corps to civilian life? Have you correlated that? Have you thought about it? Talk a little bit about how you correlate your leadership skills to civilian life.
Well, I consider myself a servant leader. I think most of us do, and I will continue serving, just the American people in a different way. And I believe through real estate, I can do that. Continue, being honest with people. And that's another thing that brings me up to, this program, talking to, the instructors and telling me like, if this guy can't afford a house or they're trying to get this loan that is not good for them, they'll be like, no, you don't do that because, it's not going to be good for you. And them being so honest, I'm like, man, that's awesome. You're not trying to screw people over.
Sure.
And I'm like, man, that I like that. I want to emulate that. I want to use that, and continue being a servant leader and not screwing people over.
That's a great way you say that. So there's obviously a certain ethos that we have in the military, obviously, whether it's the Navy or the Marine Corps, just all branches. But then when you enter the civilian life now, or you're what they call a 1099 independent contractor, now you're looking at, are you going to say what's in the best interest of the client now, even though it may cost you a paycheck, right? Because you're commission only, or are you going to legitimately, are you going to look out for your own best interest? So we see that compromise happen in real estate all the time, probably in all industries, but a lot of times when you, especially in a tough economy like this,
Yes.
when you see, you might give advice to a client where it's not going to put a paycheck on, not put food on your table necessarily, but it is in the interest of the client. That's kind of a touchy subject, and we see people go both ways. But I think to your point, your ethos, your integrity, that's where that comes into play to do the right thing.
And that's one of the biggest things that Herbert pushed so much. He was like, I'm not gonna compromise my trust, my ethics, my values.
Sure.
Just because money.
Correct.
And he said it numerous times throughout the course. If something's not right for an individual, don't do it. If you can't sleep at night, good, because of something you're trying to do, don't even do it.
And I think that's a great point. So there's viewers and listeners that are thinking about getting licensed or maybe already in the industry. And this is a question for all of you. Like, what have you seen out there? Have you seen compromising situations like that? And if so, how did it play out? And how do you perceive that balance between sometimes, looking out for your own best interest versus the best interest of the client?
Well, the way I look at it, when you have a client hire you, you're there to represent them, right? You're there to be their voice, basically, because you're the one with the knowledge about the transaction. So when they're about to make a mistake or you see that something's not good for them, how I always view it is I'm always going to treat another person how I want to be treated, right? Like I'm looking at, like I'm selling my mom a house right now. Would I put my mom in that house? No. Then I'm telling them straight up. There's times where I've had to tell clients, you'd have to fire me for me to write an offer for you.
I remember.
Because this house is not safe. There's a whole bunch of stuff wrong with it. We can find something else. But at the end of the day, that's why we're looking for vets, because a lot of our bills are already paid, right? So that compromise kind of goes away then, because you're not, if you don't make that one deal, you might get your car repoed. You might not be able to make your mortgage payment, right?
Right.
But with us, our bills are paid. So like, we really don't have that compromise. I've seen it before, where I've seen agents try to list a house and had someone, the owner was not in the mental state that they could have signed the contract, because they even had caregivers. They made them sign it, and then the agent went back out of the contract.
What?
Because
So they held their hand?
Pretty much.
Because you have to have the mental capacity
Yeah.
to enter into a contract for it to be valid,
Mhm.
right? So yeah, I mean,
So you see it, and it's bad, and you see people get put in really bad homes because the agent's just trying to close the deal and move on to the next one.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah. How about you, Herbert?
Kind of the same thing to caveat off of Doc. He couldn't have said it better. At the end of the day, I look at it that way, is I look at it very personally. Like, if I was a client, would I purchase this home? Would I put myself and my family in this situation? And if the answer is no, the answer is no. And I explain that to him. I get people have to put food on the table, but that's why we are blessed that we have our retirements and our pensions to be able to just truly give that transparency. And at the end of the day, if the numbers make sense, like kind of like in this situation, we know the market is what it is. But when you sit down and if the numbers make sense for him and it's viable, then cool, let's move forward.
Sure.
But I'm going to show you everything along the way. And then now it's a decision for you to make. And then there comes a point where, like he said, I'm sorry, I can't help you. You got to find somebody else, because that's a terrible decision.
Absolutely.
And I'm not signing my name off on that in any way, shape, or form.
I want to take a moment to talk about a sponsor of the podcast, EGA Homes. You may know I am the founder and proud owner of EGA Homes, and we are anything but just another real estate brokerage. We've taken our military values and work ethic and carried it over to the real estate industry. Our team of agents have access to unparalleled marketing tools and training resources that help us grow our business and best help our clients achieve their goals. To learn more about how we can help you buy, sell, and even invest, contact us at info@egahomes.com. And now, back to the show.
It kind of goes back to what what you were saying as far as integrity and all that stuff. And another reason why we want to make sure that your retirement, your disability rating, all that squared away, is because there is a chronological order of doing things in the proper way and in the proper order, to make sure that it doesn't compromise other areas of your life. And so I think that makes a clear distinction on how the Boots to Suits program works. Is that we definitely want to make sure that you're doing things in the right order, you're getting things squared away in the home front first. Because if something's lacking on the home front, you're not going to be as effective in battle, meaning in the real estate battlefield, if you will. We want to make sure there's a proper way to get things done, and that's what we reinforce through the program. And so I'm glad that you were able to one, recognize that and take advantage of that as well. And so for our viewers and listeners as well, that's what we do. We want to make sure you're good to go in terms of your life in general, so that you can put your best foot forward and be as effective as you can in real estate. So yeah, great job on that. Anything else, gentlemen?
One of the things I remember from you, Luis, when we were in scenario phase, I was really trying hard to get you on some scenarios, but you used resources and you thought outside the box. What we try to tell you guys the entire time is think outside the box, think outside the box. Not everything's going to be the same. It might look like the same scenario, but when you pull it back, it's not. And you would come to us with certain answers, and we're looking at each other, not knowing that you're making phone calls off on the side, but you knew people, and that's what it's about, right? Like, you have your network. If you, like, I was talking to Jen this weekend because I had to make sure that what I was putting in this escrow was correct. You just have to reach out, and you did that. And I remember one scenario where you were role playing with me and you were reading out of your notebook, and I took your notebook from you. Dude, he got pissed. His face turned red. He was just like, "You just took my knowledge." But it worked out better. You knew the information.
Yeah.
That was just a crutch, and you were able to spit everything out. And it was
I was impressed by that too. impressed by that too, because what we do for those that are viewing and watching is we put our cohort, we put our participants through real world scenarios in real estate, and so we ask them, and given scenario A, how would you address this challenge, or how would you address the situation? And they have to come back and just think intuitively, sometimes improvise. I remember one of your colleagues in the program, Taylor, had to improvise. Whether you say the wrong or right thing, it gives us an opportunity to kind of regroup and kind of like recalibrate certain things, so you understand how to effectively navigate through tough situations. But what I heard in that cohort, in that class, was pretty impressive. for guys that had never been in the real estate industry, given those scenarios, the way you responded was far advanced from what we normally see.
No, and that's one thing, that this program, you think, as a senior enlisted, or somebody's about to retire, been 20 years in the Marine Corps, things,
Yeah.
booster suits will get you out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
You think like, oh, you're just gonna talk to people. No, you're gonna be pushed out of your comfort zone, and it's okay. We thrive on that. We love in the military, but sometimes we forget that because we haven't been pushed out of our comfort zone in quite a while.
Absolutely.
But you guys were there to catch us, see we fail, or just like, hey man, you just get up, let's do it again. Getting out of the comfort zone. Of course, it's never comfortable. But after you've done it and did it, and you look back, you're like, man, I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I made those little things that were uncomfortable. But now I feel a lot better.
It's funny you say that. I'm smirking too right now because I mean you have to become comfortable doing uncomfortable things. You have to, right? In my opinion, for in order to progress, you have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, right? And I know we've all done that, right? And sometimes we've done it where it was prepared. Like if you look at going through boot camp or what have you. But in theaters of operations, it's almost impossible to prepare for the scenarios that you're going to face out there. So you do have to rely on your ingenuity. I remember working with a lot of the CBs, right? To go back to some of Doc's colleagues, is the CBs, super great outfit, man. They would come up there and they would take ammo boxes or pieces of wood and make mountains out of it. It's unbelievable the things they do. Corpsmen all the time in theater, man. They know how to patch you up. They can think on a whim. They can think quickly and make sure that they create the best possible outcome in almost seemingly impossible situations. So I'm glad you were able to kind of extrapolate what we do in the military to make you successful in the program. That just puts you so far ahead of the game. It's unbelievable. Would you guys agree?
I totally agree. I've always said that how we were trained in the military trains us for real estate. Because, for example, if you take negotiations, right? When we're talking to another service member, another service member is in trouble, we're taught to listen, let them talk, and then we counter whatever they say, because we'll catch them in that lie, right? So it's the same thing with negotiations. When you're listening for somebody, they're divulging information that you can use to get what you want in the negotiation later. The way we're organized, because we all have a morning plan, right? When we're active duty, you have your training schedule for that day, whether it's 08 PT, 09 in the Army, your whole day is planned. Your whole platoon is planned, right? Same thing, what's time blocking? It's the same thing. Time blocking is the exact same thing. You're just now it's your stuff on your schedule and learning how to use your schedule to benefit the output of your business.
So you might not know, but as Doc was asking you questions, he was seeing if your pupils were dilating, man. He was like reading you, bro, like an interrogator. I loved it. So just kidding, but kind of not. But yeah, no, there was some real purpose and passion behind the entire agenda of what we try to accomplish with you. Herb?
So 15 years as a gunny on the ground side. I know a lot of times for those that come from that background, it's pretty intimidating to think of, okay, now I'm leaving this. For me, it was artillery. Transitioning out, there's nobody hiring artillerymen out here. Same thing other than being a cop and security. So by going through this program, what things were you able to correlate that you feel that maybe for others would help them make that transition a lot less scary, especially after 23 years of service?
Well, for once, I don't know any other skill bridge program. I know I've never been to it. I heard from other people, but definitely, Booster Suits is a program that is gonna help us in that transition. Like I said, you guys were there for us, pushing us, way more on all these other topics that we weren't even thinking, not just in the real estate industry, but also on a personal level. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, no, definitely. In the military, we have the whole Marine concept. So you're not just an infantryman, right? You want
Sure.
the whole Marine concept. Got to be able to do a little bit of everything. So I think that was a big thing. Was we've already been there, done that, gone through those hurdles. We struggled and went through our downfalls. So now let's set these guys up, make sure that they're taking care of each other.
And that's one thing that you guys brought up a lot, and I like how you guys put it together in military terms in regards to different MOSs. In this industry, there is so many other person that helps out, the lenders, the inspectors, and so many more. And you guys correlate that into military terms, like, oh, this is one MOS, this is two MOS, your piece of the pie is this right here. But all together, we make the mission accomplished. Throwing out those military terms out there made it way easier to understand, and feel that you're still part of the military family.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think all of us have gone through a stage where we realize just how critical each component is, as you mentioned. So in real estate specifically, we might be handling the real estate piece as far as the property and whatnot, but then you do have our lending partners, our title partners, our escrow partners. It is definitely a collaboration of different professionals that are all specialists using MOS, military occupational specialties. There are ROSs, I guess, real estate occupational specialties that help make that transaction successful and provide the value to that client, just like we provide the value to accomplish the mission in the military, right? But we handle our piece. They handle their piece, and that's how we, through collaboration, get the mission accomplished. Same mindset, right? So it's mission, mission, mission. Anybody understands how, the Marine Corps functions or how the military functions in general, specifically, it's about accomplishing that mission, right?
Once you correlate those things and you compare it to the military, being an NCO, staff NCO, you're getting ready to go to the field. You got to get chow, so you got to get with the chow hall. You got to get all the stuff from supply. You got to get all your vehicles from Motor T. You got to be able to deal with all these different assets. So once you transition and you become an agent and you correlate those two worlds, all you're doing is changing the subject. You're no longer an NCO. Now I'm a real estate agent.
Right.
Now I'm contacting title. I'm contacting the home inspectors. I'm doing all these different things. It's no different. So that takes a lot of that stress away, a lot of that anxiety that a lot of these combat vets have of, well, what am I going to do now? I'm going to fail. Now I have all these issues. Now these people already see me as a liability and they don't even want to take that next step and jump into a new career. They'd rather just stay where they're at and comfortable. Yeah. But when you can correlate that what we learn in the military is very vital and important, and we can get out there and do it, we're successful and it's easy, and we can correlate that. We have each other. I don't need my other NCOs. I have my fellow agents and brokers
Sure.
in front of me to help me out. So I think that's been a big thing for me. That's helped me to kind of overcome some of those hurdles. And that's why when we put the program together, we really talked about what is it that's helped each one of us to get to where we are. And let's bridge that gap so other people don't kind of have to go through that.
That's a great point too. And that's a huge improvement from the past. So I'll date myself again. And I've said this in podcasts in the past, is that in my era, we were considered more of a liability than we were an asset. So to your point, to see it progress to a point where now they're correlating all the skill set and things that we've done in our respective MOSs to success as a civilian in real estate or lending or any of the real estate related vocations it's a huge improvement. And again, there was times we wouldn't even put that on our resume in my era. I'm dating myself. So for all the older guys and girls that served, I'm going to date myself. But back in our era, we were more of a liability. In my dad's era, in the Vietnam era, they were really a liability. I mean, they're just like, if you just got back from Vietnam, we're a little bit concerned about your mental state. And back then, they didn't have a PTSD diagnosis. It was called shell shock. Just like our World War II and our Korean War veterans. But to see it come that long to just a 180-degree turn where now I want you to work because I do correlate your leadership skills. I do correlate all the things you do in the military to how you're going to make my organization successful is just a breath of fresh air, man, to see that change happen. So thank you for saying that too, Herb.
Yeah, and there's a lot of companies out there, that they fully focus is mission accomplishment.
Sure.
The mission. And being here with you guys, you do mission accomplishment, but it also correlates with troop welfare. Taking care of that troop.
Welfare, absolutely.
During my course, we had a party for Halloween. We did some real estate, educational process, but we also had some fun. We went out to eat. So taking care of that troop, taking care of that agent, was awesome. Knowing that, okay, these people are just not here for the mission.
Sure.
They're here to take care of each other as well. And I believe a lot of companies are missing that aspect of the military, and you guys really hit that. Even though we're done with that course, I still feel that troop welfare is still here.
Absolutely.
I know I can call Herbert,
100%.
James, you, and no matter if it's real estate related question or any other questions, you'll be like, what's up, man? What do you need?
Absolutely, 100%. And that's the commitment we stand by. So just, for our viewers and listeners, if you're thinking about getting a real estate license or what have you, or lending or anything related, hit us up, like send a message, contact us. We will be introducing at some point in the future a platform that'll take us nationwide. And again, because we didn't want to limit what we have, there's a lot of brothers and sisters that serve that could really benefit from this program, and we want to make sure we do all we can to expand that, through all 50 states if possible. So we'll be rolling out a platform that might help facilitate that process. And also, too, just what advice would you give other transitioning military personnel, even veterans now? I mean, you're out now.
Yeah.
You're out now. Still got that high and tight. I love it. But what advice would you give to other military personnel in transitioning or transitioned Marines and veterans?
Well, the advice I would give somebody is, yes, you can accomplish things by yourself, but it's a lot easier when you have people in your corner. So as you transition out, no matter if it's 3 months, a year, the longer the better. You need to have people in the corner to help you with that transition.
Sure, I agree.
Like I stated before, I came from Japan, and my unit, my people were in Japan and not here. So I had very little people to help me transition while being here. Not knowing that, this group right here was going to be the people that will help me out. And it made it way easier, fun, to transition out. Even though I'm already out, there's still things I have to do. But I still have people, you guys in my corners, that are going to help me, to continue with that transition. Because not just getting DD 214, there's still things to do.
100%. That's sometimes when the journey starts. You get that
Yeah.
DD 214, man. You're like, whoa. But as I mentioned before, I'm glad that there's support. I mean, these two gentlemen here are unbelievable. And I'm just proud to call you brothers, and you're right. Regardless of the eras that we served in, we will always be brothers looking out for one another. And that's something I want everybody watching and listening to this podcast to understand, that it's not about business. Business is secondary to who we are and what we stand for. And that's a commitment we take very seriously. But we do have a lot of fun as well.
Yes.
Because I had a good time watching you guys watching all the different scenarios you were faced with. We were debriefing afterwards and talking about it as well. We're like, man, did you hear how Luis responded? Did you hear how Gabe responded? Taylor, Ben? It was kind of fun, man. So it was refreshing as the older guy on the team to look back and be like, man, things have come a long way, man. And I'm glad you got the value out of that. I really am. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Gentlemen. All right. Well, that concludes this episode of the Boots to Suits podcast. Again, if you're interested in getting a real estate license or any of the vocations related to real estate, hit us up. As Luis mentioned, we're here for you first and foremost. Everything else is secondary. Real estate's just a vehicle for you to live your passion and purpose and make a better quality of life for you and your family. Luis, thank you for being here, brother. Really appreciate you. Semper Fidelis as usual. And again, here for life, brother.
All right, boss. Thank you.
Hoorah.